And we are back. What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek, back for another one, guys. Well, with it being June in the summer months, this is essentially the dead period when it comes to football content, as the Colts just wrapped up OTAs, minicamp, all that stuff. And we got a good month and a half until training camp comes. So, Derek, this is kind of the period in time where I think a lot of people check out. A lot of people kind of take the summer off from football and football talk and stuff. But we wanted to kind of help fill the void for some of you diehards just like us who want to talk about the Colts 365, 24 hours a day, that sort of thing. So what we did was we asked on the different social media platforms to each and every person, we said, give us some of your hottest Colts takes. And we want to react to those Colts takes. And so I just have to say, before we get into them, you guys absolutely killed it. Like, you took our expectations and did it tenfold, even more than that probably. You guys were absolutely phenomenal when it came to the questions that you asked. A lot of you guys were in dropping your hot takes. And so really excited to kind of jump into this. And Derek, it was so, the amount was so insane that we actually have to break it down into multiple episodes over multiple different days, for even sometimes on the same platform, which is just absolutely crazy. Now, you'll notice for Twitter or X, or whatever you want to call it, and Instagram, we're probably going to have more parts because I think there was somewhere around, 50 questions or something from each of those individually, respectively. And then we had one in our community tab. I think we had about 20 in there, and then some less on Facebook, probably about 5 or 10 on there. So we're going to kind of break that down, guys. I think, Derek, we have, 5 questions you said we're going to get into today. So, guys, this is going to be like a thing we're going to be doing over the course of June and July, kind of reacting to some of your takes. And we thought this would kind of fill the void for some of us. So, with that being said, let's jump right into the hot takes here, the first official hot takes here of the 2024 summer. So, Derek, I'll let you lead out because I know you have the 5 questions that you picked. Take it away.
All right. And so we'll keep this under time restraint. Here we go. So, first hot take. A.D. Mitchell has more touchdowns in 2024 than Michael Pittman. Your thoughts?
Who said this, by the way? Curious. What was
I'll have to pull it up. I would have to pull up the tweet again, but I'll actually go ahead and do that now while you're responding. So,
well, I was going to say, whoever this is, I wholeheartedly agree with you. This is one thing I actually said, Derek. I put up an A.D. Mitchell video just recently, and I said this might get some people be like, really? But I said I wouldn't be shocked at all if A.D. Mitchell had led the Colts in touchdowns this next year. I would not be shocked in the slightest because, Derek, it was something like every 5 catches last year at Texas, he had a touchdown. So this dude's a touchdown machine. Right. So for me, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if A.D. Mitchell led the Colts in receiving touchdowns. Right. Maybe he's not getting the most receptions, the most targets, the most yards. But this is the guy that has a nose for the end zone. And I truly believe that is not a wild take, to be honest with you. I do think that is a legitimate thing that could happen because Michael Pittman's never been a big volume touchdown guy. Really, nobody on this team last year was that, And I know, obviously, you point to the quarterback. We've talked about that ad nauseum at this point. But, I think, Derek, when you honestly think about it, I wouldn't be shocked at all if you look at the end of the season, you're like, holy cow, A.D. Mitchell led the Colts in touchdowns. Wouldn't be shocked at all. So whoever did drop this hot take, I definitely agree with you.
Augustine R on Twitter. And, I will say this, you got to start it off with the milder takes, it could be getting a little bit more juicy.
Okay.
And, like we said, guys, there's going to be so many more episodes of this. And there's honestly a lot more of these that were even wilder. I was kind of, first video, kind of being a little bit more tame with some of these.
Ease us into it a little bit,
Yeah, but you're right, Cody. The Colts have never been a team of, we're going to force feed this guy in the red zone all the time. They've never been that team. Michael Pittman, for as much production as he gives you, he's never really been a red zone targeted guy. And I don't necessarily know why, but it's just how the Colts have run things. So it is what it is. But we'll go ahead and move on with the next thing here. So the Indianapolis Colts with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor will have the number one rushing offense next year with over 2,000 yards rushing next year. Now, of course, we remember last year, I believe it was the San Francisco 49ers, Christian McCaffrey, I mean, just having a phenomenal year. I'm and I may have butchered that. It might have been another team. It could have possibly been the Ravens. But either way, the question stands, the Indianapolis Colts having the number one rushing attack next year. What do you think of that one?
Well, I mean, I think they're definitely in that conversation, Derek, for the best dual threat, when it comes to quarterback and running back. So I don't think that's too spicy for me, to be honest with you. I mean, who are some other guys that you would probably throw into that category, right? Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley are probably the most obvious. Who are some other guys you'd probably throw into that category as well? I'm blanking on a couple, but I know that's like the number one.
Ravens, if you're wanting to go that far. The San Francisco 49ers with Christian McCaffrey. You have to go with the teams that are going to run the ball a lot. I couldn't say the Browns because they don't run the ball enough with Nick Chubb to warrant me thinking that. So I look at that and I say it's very apparent for me because, yeah, I mean, outside of the Ravens and maybe the 49ers, I don't know if there's a lot of other teams. If Anthony Richardson remains healthy, then yes, Anthony Richardson can get you 50 yards a game, potentially running the football. And we know Jonathan Taylor and what he can do. So, I mean, I definitely would say that the Indianapolis Colts are definitely up there. It would be very difficult for them to do that. But I do think that if Jonathan Taylor is healthy all year, then I definitely see a situation where that could be the case.
I definitely would agree with this take. I think that's a very plausible thing if they stay healthy, both of them. I do think this is something where you can look at the end of the day and say, I honestly think, Derek, you could look and say, if this isn't a top 5 rushing team, you're probably very disappointed in how they were utilized. I mean, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Next one. It's getting a little bit juicier, this next one. All right. So here we go. Ready for this one?
I'm ready.
AR should be sitting another year due to age and raw ability. Also, I do want to say shout out to Stephen Kitchen for the last one. This one comes from Keenan Hoppel. Basically saying Anthony Richardson should sit more because he thinks that he could learn more from sitting more and should be given more time than a usual rookie should. What do you think of that one, Cody?
Well, I respect you putting that out there. I don't think you're going to have a lot of people who agree with you, to be honest with you. I'm not one of those people who agree with you. I mean, Derek, what's been the thing that we've talked about for ever since he was drafted? He needs experience. He needs to be on the field. He needs to be growing as he goes along. I mean, you talk about some of the better quarterbacks in the league. How did they get to where they are? They played. They played. Josh Allen. I mean, that's a prime example, right? Like, he played, had not a great rookie season, but he got better every single year because the raw talent was clearly there, and they knew how to develop him as a quarterback, right? And the thought is, like with Anthony Richardson, being out there, like, he obviously provides something completely different for what you're going to do than any other quarterback on your roster. But like, that dude only played 4 games last year, and not even a full 4 games. So he needs all the experience he can get. So I couldn't agree less with this one. Couldn't disagree more with this one. Just because, like, I mean, come on, you don't draft the guy 4th overall for him to sit and essentially not play for 2 years. Like, that's just not the scenario, and how are you going to know if he's the guy if he's not on the football field? So no, not really in agreement with this one.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you on that one. Yeah, and at some point you have to start like asking yourself how much time is sitting is not going to do it, and especially here's probably a thing that Keenan maybe didn't mention or didn't think about, and it's something that other people have to think about. It's one thing to sit there and say they should do this, but how does that make the player feel? Like, I know players' feelings. Wow, hard to believe they have them. I mean, and I promise I'm not roasting anyone here, but at the end of the day, it is true. Like, if you sat him for this year, how would that make Anthony Richardson feel? Like, would Anthony Richardson really want to play for you guys, knowing that for the first 2 years of his contract, you sat him for even if he was young and all these other things, and not to mention you have a quarterback that's making $8 to $9 million just sitting on a bench. Like, why? It's a total waste of your money, and eventually that player has to continue. Has to be able to show what they're learning. So you have to be able to play at some point. And there's only so much film room stuff that he can do. So
Right, and I'm sure he's sick and tired of just sitting and watching. I mean, you heard what he talked about. I think it was on Pat McAfee's show about how he literally was in tears because he couldn't be out on the field with his teammates. I mean, you talk about Richardson, which obviously, yeah, but think about what that would do to the locker room. Like, I can't even imagine how bad that would be for the Colts locker room. If you're like, you're telling me we have this quarterback with all the potential in the world, but we're sitting him, like. I think that just takes a lot of the momentum and a lot of the excitement out of your players. Like, I do think it is. Now, Joe Flacco, obviously, very capable backup. Don't get me wrong. But he's a backup. And you're not going to just sign Joe Flacco to that smaller deal that you did to play, for 17 games. I mean, you're not going to start him over your guy you took fourth overall. Like, that's just not a reality. So, yeah, I just think that would hurt, obviously, Richardson, his confidence, and that's also important, is young quarterback's confidence. That would hurt him, and that would hurt, I think, just the whole locker room in general. And obviously, you tick off the fan base, too. I mean, my gosh, he wants to go and watch a 40-year-old Joe Flacco throw it around. Like, nobody does, You want to go for the excitement, what the could be, the big throws that we saw. Like, so, yeah, not really a big fan of sitting him.
All right. 2 more here. The last one, I switched it out with something, Cody, and it's a spicy one. It's a spicy hot take. All right. The 4th one here. Colts make it to the AFC Championship game this year. Your thoughts on that one, man?
Ooh.
And we're getting hot, man. We're getting hot here.
We're getting there. Man, I don't know if we could handle that amount of spice right now. My goodness.
If we can't handle it on this one, the next one is going to probably give you a heart attack.
Oh, boy. Probably the ones about them going 17-0. I've seen a few of those. But, no, I mean, obviously, that would have to mean Anthony Richardson not just stays on the field, but takes a massive leap. Like, I'm talking he's an elite quarterback this year, right? And I don't know if that's going to be necessarily the case. Like, we've talked about, like, how we believe AR definitely has a lot of tools to really start to do some really good things. But again, Derek, I just want to preach patience with AR because, while he showed probably a little bit further along than maybe we all expected last year, he still is essentially a rookie. I know he had some time and experience watching film, but when it comes to playing time, it's he didn't play that much last year. So there's going to be growing pains. I do think there's going to be growing pains with Anthony Richardson. Now, how much? Well, I guess we'll have to see. But I mean, he's a young quarterback, and he hasn't had that much experience at the NFL level actually being out there on the field. So, I'm not quite ready to go there quite yet. But I do think, the goal this year should certainly be the division, should certainly be reaching the playoffs and be winning the playoff game. But I don't know, AFC Championship game, you're going to have to go through a lot of tough teams. You're going to go through Baltimore. You're going to have to go through Kansas City potentially, or maybe you'll play Kansas City. You have to go through Buffalo. There's a lot of really good teams that you're going to potentially have to go through. Now, I think the Colts could do it, but it all really will hinge for me on Anthony Richardson. And I don't know if he's going to quite be in that elite category, this year, even if all goes well and he stays healthy. So that's kind of my thoughts.
I feel you on that. I'll leave it at that. All right. This last one here. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't look at the banners. You're gonna hate this one. Well, I can't wait to see your facial reaction to this. And the title of it is, we should have given Wentz another year.
I'm not having the reaction. I'm not having the reaction you probably think I'm going to have.
Really?
Because
Okay.
I
All
don't
right.
hate this as much as you probably think I do. Okay.
Okay.
Now, again, I know the Carson Wentz, very controversial. Like, I felt like every time we posted anything that had to do with Carson Wentz that year, it like exploded. Like, people were on Carson Wentz. Like, that was like a super popular thing. So for me, I'm kind of like, I understand why the Colts did what they did. But I also look at it and I say, I mean, let's be honest, quarterback play was worse the following year. So
yes, it
that's
was.
tough.
It very much it was, but I mean, well, I'll say this.
Yeah.
I mean, was it? I mean, here's the thing. Yes, Carson Wentz early in 2022, or I'm sorry, 2021 was very good. It was very good at times. But then
Yeah.
those last 5 games, I mean, Carson Wentz was as much a factor in those games as Matt Ryan was. Only difference,
Sure.
the offensive line was better and they had a running back that was healthy. So, I mean, I beg to differ on how much Carson Wentz actually would have. Here's the thing. I think this question would be a lot better. I think this question would be a lot better if you talked about Carson Wentz in a Shane Steichen led offense. Would have been a better idea to just keep Wentz around? I could get behind that argument. I could get behind that because I think Shane Steichen led offense would be a great offense for a Carson Wentz player to run because I think that the decision making is a lot easier. It's a lot more timed. It's a lot quicker. And obviously, it feeds into a lot of better situations for quarterbacks. Now, I mean, should we have given him another year? I almost don't wish that on Carson Wentz, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Like that
Yeah, I get you.
2022 team was abysmal. Carson Wentz has already dealt with injuries. He's already had to deal with trash coaches. Like, don't wish that upon Carson Wentz in 2022. I mean, it wasn't all Matt Ryan being the problem. It was our coaches gave up. A lot of our coaches gave up, and our offensive line was not in sync, and it was just an abysmal year. So, should we have given Wentz another year? No, because no one should have had to have dealt with what the Indianapolis Colts were in 2022.
Yeah, and I hope when I like say I don't hate it, I'm not saying like, and I don't think this is what he's saying either. Maybe he is, but I'm not saying that Carson Wentz would have done anything different, for the Colts. Like, I'm not saying that would have happened, but to kind of bail on the guy when he showed you, I mean, even though it wasn't great, he was average. He was an average quarterback, right? But the problem was his highs were extremely high where you're like, this could be the franchise. But the lows were so low. I mean, Tennessee left-handed pass, dare I say more, like that it was so polarizing. And I think there was some off the field stuff as well that just did not sit well with a lot of the players or maybe some of the players, but some of the higher ups in the Colts organization. So obviously there was more than just Carson Wentz as a player. The player had enough issues, but I think there was some more stuff. But I mean, it's funny, Derek, because you say all that, they said all that stuff about Carson Wentz, or maybe said it without even saying it. But in the next year, they're even worse than they were the year previous. So it's like, well, there's other issues besides just Carson Wentz with this organization. So, but yeah, when it comes to Carson Wentz, I wouldn't have hated it if they gave him another year, but I understand why they didn't, because they felt like it just wasn't, he wasn't the guy, and they moved off of it. And I guess at the end of the day, they did get some sort of capital back. So I'm not too mad. I think we were kind of amazed that they even got like a 3rd-round pick for Carson Wentz that year. And also that contract. I guess I didn't consider that contract too. Yeah. That was a pretty big contract the Colts had to eat as well when it came to that. I think Washington actually took like all that contract, which was super helpful. So I would, I'm honestly fine with how it worked out. I don't think Carson Wentz was the answer. And I don't think that, another year with Frank Reich would have really done much or made much of a difference in how that team was in 2022. So I definitely agree with you there.
And I think that one was from Arthur Lewis. So very interesting tidbit there. But yeah, guys, that is the 5 hot takes that you guys gave for the Indianapolis Colts. We'll definitely have a lot more of these. Like we said, guys, if we went through every single one of these, we'd be here for an entire evening. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous how much you guys had, especially on X. So don't worry, we're gonna have more of these throughout this time because, like Cody said at the beginning, we're at that time of the off season where everyone is looking for something to talk about. Even exposing some of your guys' hot takes might actually provide some enjoyment on this channel. So keep them coming.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Cody, you have anything else to add to that?
I say if we ever run out, just check my replies. There's always somebody in there saying something ridiculous. So there you go.
Absolutely.
But no, but in serious though, thank you guys. We really do appreciate it. Like you said, we're going to be breaking it down. You know, this is just the first part of X. So we're going to be talking more about some of the other questions that you guys brought, or hot takes rather, that you guys brought. So be sure to be on the lookout, see if your hot take gets read. But guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, guys, go Colts.